Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another ARMA 3 Shoutcast recording live here on Bravo Company's Fight Night event in ARMA 3. I'm MicOne, you're awesome, and joining me in the co-commentator position once again is ObsidianZephyr, one of the leaders of Raven Tactical.
It's good to be back.
And ladies and gentlemen, boy, do we have an awesome close quarters, what is bound to be a close quarters matchup for you today. Before we get into it, let's introduce the teams. On Red 4, this is going to be pretty easy. On Red 4, it's just Bravo Company, and Bravo Company is taking on Blue 4, Viking, the 71st SOG, the 29th ID, the 2nd MRB, and OGC. It's a little bit of a Bravo Company versus all in this matchup, and let's check out what the objectives are for both teams. For Blue 4, and I guess for Red 4, Blue 4 has to defend this large FOB walled complex on top of, what did you call it, Obsidian? Green Mountain?
I believe it's Blue 4 defend, or not Blue 4. Blue 4 is attacking, but
Blue 4's attacking,
I believe it's called Green Mountain.
Green Mountain. We'll call it Green Mountain. That's a pretty cool name for it. Either way, Red 4 is going to be defending this Green Mountain complex, as well as defending a cache that is located just off the MSR in the woods somewhere here. I can't really identify it because I think it's in the trees, kind of difficult to spot. But either way, as we kind of take an overhead view at the beginning of this matchup, and we can see Blue 4 advancing steadily up this hillside and the northern flank of that FOB, and kind of taking a look at the Red 4 defensive positions. They're slowly starting to line up for a fairly decent line formation to kind of meet that Blue 4 advance head on, but a lot of that Red 4 units are still on the opposite side of the hillside. That whole Echo 2 team and several other units not really in a position to support once the fire starts being let out on this northern flank. And man, taking a look at the mass of Blue 4 pushing up towards these trees, we're going to go in a quick night vision mode, and you can see now as the Blue 4 push beyond the trees, and they are facing literally an uphill battle at this point, but we'll see what they can do. And I think, honestly, this is probably the best advance for Blue 4 to take at this time, simply because on the other flank, they would have probably been under contact already. But here in the north, they can get really close en masse, and take out Red 4 as they start to engage.
The only issues they could possibly face on this kind of approach is early nades. They're extremely clumped, especially on the northmost push.
Yeah, that's a lot of Blue 4 very, very close together, and maybe their close proximity is perhaps a good thing in the sense that Red 4 will, maybe spot them a little bit later. Blue 4 able to get a little bit closer to their objective before that first engagement happens. But either way, Valar, Rob, and Elite going to be the, the vanguard for that Red 4 side. But that being said, actually, Factor from Bravo Company is the furthest north out of that FOB, and perhaps he's going to be the one to come into close contact with Judge from that Blue 4 team in just a few moments. And ladies and gentlemen, if you like these kinds of videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more great shoutcasts to come, as well as subscribe to ObsidianZephyr's channel. He posts ARMA 3 related content with his military simulation group or tactical realism group called Raven Tactical, and you can find a link to his channel in the description of this video. Blue 4 decided, actually, Obsidian being a little bit more timid. Some friendly fire taking place right now, and man, that just might be the worst play that could happen right now. Judge taken out by his friendly forces in this tree line. And I mean, we can go into the actual view here, and it is very dark in this tree line. So now Red 4 is alerted to the route of approach for that Blue 4 team, and we can see the Red 4 shifting. So a terrible instance of friendly fire to begin this matchup.
They spotted Factor.
Now, taking fire. In fact, you're going to be trying to retreat, run away, and perhaps preserve his life for a little bit longer. But man, that was a very bad misplay for that Blue 4 team. Friendly firing off the bat, and now Red 4 knows pretty much the direction of that Blue 4 assault.
Yeah, they're able to move and counter this. They're forming a line on their own, and Blue 4 is going to have a hard time on that front.
Yeah, we're on board with Factor right now, and he's got a PKM. Or maybe that's not Factor. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, Factor. Oh, man, you can see the Blue 4 crossing right in front of him, and maybe Factor will decide to fire fairly shortly. This is what he sees from his aimed down sight position, and oh, man, he just let those Blue 4 cross, but he's got to know they're there. Factor just a few meters away from that Blue 4 contact at this time.
Yeah, that's one of the struggles with being one of the spotters there. When you get so close to the enemy there, suddenly you're going to be pressed with decisions along the lines of, do you shoot and reveal yourself and possibly take out a section of the enemy, or do you preserve yourself and attack them later? I mean, both are pretty...
Yeah, both are effective, and he's perhaps opting for the latter here. As we see the Blue 4 continuing to move forward in this tree line. I think you guys won't be able to see this on YouTube unless it is in night vision in this tree line here. It's just a little bit too dark for YouTube's encoding platform. But yeah, that unit decides to push away. Perhaps we're going to be taking that a little bit more cautiously. Let's take a look at the other flanks. As we see now, wow, Blue 4 very widely dispersed now in a huge line formation pushing forward towards that fob. And we'll see what Red 4 can do. Stardog is there for that Red 4 team. Going to be dropping some GLs just below him near, I guess that's what, Staff Sergeant Hardstock's element just to the south of his position. Factor going to be under close contact again as Sebastian's Blue 4 element continues to push forward. Let's hop into night vision mode again. And yeah, man, Factor... I don't think he's looking in the right direction, but... Oh, no, he is looking in the right direction. I think this is probably a prime time to go into first-person view with Factor once again, and we can see what he sees. No, maybe not. Come on. Come on. There we go. First-person view and Factor aim down sight. Lockyn right at the heads of that Blue 4 element. We'll see if he decides to engage. I mean, it's like you said, Obsidian. Does he wait and maybe let them get a little bit closer? No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
To engage. And here we go. First engagement of the map. PKM opening fire. Factor taking a few shots, and will be backing away. I think perhaps that's a good move, right? I mean, taking a few pot shots, slowing the Blue 4's roll a little bit. You know, kind of saying, hey, I'm here. You know, watch your movement. Man,
any engagement you can walk away from, yeah.
Any engagement you can walk away from and kind of maintain a tactical advantage, which he has, and that's definitely a good engagement. And even taking a look at close contact now on the flank of that Blue 4 element. Wiki, Drago, and Ixis are there for Bravo Company, and they are going to be engaging Blue 4 on that flank. Let's head back in a night vision view, and I'm not sure if that's too bright or not, but either way, we can see the Blue 4 units inside this tree line, and it is just being lit up by GLs right now. Let's take an overview. And wow, fantastic GLs taking out a Bravo Company member, Ixis, on the edge of that tree line. And that's a whole lot of frags and explosive ordnance just going off on Bravo Company. Wiki, Drago still there on position. Drago taking close GLs but maintains. Currently, let's check out at the other flank of this hillside. Yankee Doodle under close contact with some Blue 4 elements. That's OGC pushing that flank, laying the smackdown on Yankee, and he is currently being suppressed from two different positions. Blue 4 getting into pretty danger close range of this FOB. Yeah, I mean, that's within 15 meters of that FOB Obsidian.
Yeah, they're pushing it hard, but not sure they're going to be able to secure that push, though, especially with the way the engagement with Factor and that northern Blue 4 push. The guys guarding the cache swung right around to help Factor and stopped Blue 4 there.
Yeah, I mean, Blue 4, that 6-man element now just getting sandwiched. Hoyt taking fire from that PKM. It's going to be a 1v1. Who'll come on top? Factor dodging back and forth with that tree line. Both are coming under contact, and he will get flanked by the lead element of that Blue 4. Another Blue 4 will be taken down by Dinosaur in the far, I guess that's the far west of that position. Blue 4 still suppressed on this pause, but Factor is taken out. Drago, Wiki still on this flank, able to be posed a threat to this advancing Blue 4 unit. Let's take a look at that other flank. Again, that OGC element still pushed up, hasn't actually pushed up any further than we took, than when we looked at him last time. But either way, I think a decent, beginning of the match for the Red 4. Able to really shift their forces effectively, I think, into a position where they're able to counter that Blue 4 attack. That being said,
definitely.
though, yeah, I mean, the ability of Blue 4 to roll past Factor's position and kind of bypass this other Echo 2 element is, I mean, hats off to them. They were able to come into contact, push through the middle of 2 Red 4 units, and basically come out unscathed. I mean, I think they lost 1 unit, but I think their leadership is still up, and they still maintain a good degree of combat mobility as they decide to perhaps continue moving across this ASR and onto the other side of the tree line, ready to attack this FOB. Man, but they've got some heavy fortifications, a fence and a concrete wall to push through. Let's take a look at the entrances to the compound. A huge, wide open main entrance. Is there any others? Taking a look around, I don't think there is.
There are no cuts in the barbed fence. There's openings in the concrete fence, but they'd have to do something about the wire fence to get to the concrete one. The only real entrance is the gate.
Wow, another Blue 4 being taken out in the rear of this Blue 4 formation. Fupai is the last one remaining. That's a funny name to say. Dinosaur will go down for that Bravo Company team. And now it is essentially a 1v2 on this flank. Wiki and Drago still on this flank. Fupa going to be retreating to the rest of his teammates. I think that's a good move.
Yeah, Blue 4 needs to regroup if they want to...
Stardog coming into close contact. And it will be Reynaud taking out Stardog within 5 meters of his position. But that being said, looking off into the distance, that's Echo 1, a full Bravo Company squad advancing into position to parry the blow of this Blue 4 on this flank. Let's take a quick tactical overview, and you can see that both sides kind of mixed up, but in general, Blue 4 maintaining a fairly decent route of advance, and we can even see now that Blue 4 element on the side, that's a 4-man team, laying some covering fire, some suppressing fire down onto that Echo 1 element. Back at the FOB, that Alpha Squad and Alpha 1 for that Blue 4 team, slowly pushing forward. Wiki and Drago still on that, still on their flank, posing a direct threat as they continue to advance. Obsidian, how do you see the kind of dynamic of this match progressing from this point?
I'm not sure. Blue 4, at every point they take contact, they stop, and they have to reassess the situation. It takes them quite a bit of time to do this, whereas Op4 keeps them in their sights and continues to watch them until actually engaging. The most recent engagement I just took a gander at here was Blue 4 tried to push up to the FOB wall, but Elite just slaughtered 1 or 2 of them right at the edge of the wire fence.
And again, that's just one of the benefits of having a, I guess an extensive set of fortifications at your objective. Sklor is under fire by some Blue 4 units further down in the tree lines. Will go over his head, and he's going to be returning fire back at them before pushing back towards that FOB. Let's take a look back at that Alpha Squad for the Blue 4. They still have their 3-man element up, still being flanked by Wiki and Drago, but those 2 Bravo Company elements maintaining their distance for now.
Blue 4 seems to be keeping its distance as well. It seems as though they don't want to take these objectives. They're sitting and waiting, expecting Op4 to move, but the results they want are just not showing up.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken a whole bunch of casualties pushing forward, and at the beginning of this matchup, Blue 4 did have the numerical advantage just to kind of offset that defender's advantage. So Blue 4, we give the Blue 4 the numerical advantage, and it is all pretty much timed up in terms of numbers. So definitely, I would say right now, advantage Red 4.
I'd agree. Definitely Op4 advantage.
The command element of that Blue 4 team pushed forward on the front lines. Perhaps will be coming under close contact by Wiki fairly soon, as that Echo 2 element pushes forward towards the Blue 4 command. Man, that forward Alpha Squad for Blue 4 is pretty much surrounded at this point. Doberman taking positions on top of that tower, will take fire and retreat back inside the hardened concrete of that tower complex. Drago starting to get into danger close range of that rear Blue 4 element. Sebastian, he is not looking towards his 6, so we'll see if Drago can continue to push forward and perhaps get the jump on this Blue 4 squad. Wiki's steadily moving forward towards that Blue 4 command, taking a look at the other Blue 4 elements. Not much has happened within the last few minutes of any kind of importance, to be honest. I mean, some slight maneuverings for the Bravo Company members, Echo Squad, on this flank, but other than that, it's remained pretty well stagnant throughout this game. Alpha Squad in a fairly good dispersed position, able to cover each other fairly effectively, but again, Drago pushing up from the 6th, perhaps we'll be able to take Sebastian out, and that, I think that's the leadership element. We'll be able to start to see that squad crumble. They are nearing Valar's line of sight as well, so Valar is within the, I guess, maybe, 15, 20 meters range. Isn't exactly looking at Fupa's right position, but perhaps will be soon if he decides to open up, if that Blue 4 decides to open up. Doberman will be engaging right now, and I think he's going to be dropping some suppressive fire shots on top of that Alpha element.
If you take a look down to the south of the FOB on the southern hillside there, the pine clearing where the Blue 4 leadership is, they're actually making a little bit of progress here. Op 4 is completely backing off after coming within 50 meters, it looked, to that element. They didn't engage, they just kept moving.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. That Bravo Company team decided to push back. I'm not exactly sure the reasoning for that, but either way, this two-man element for this Blue 4 team, unopposed at this point, they are maintaining their direction towards that last node contact to their front. But again, I mean, that's a pretty sweet straight shot towards that FOB if they decide to take that route. Oh man, and there goes the rest of that Alpha squad for that Blue 4 team. Sebastian, the last one alive, getting eliminated just before this MSR, I think, by an explosive of some kind, probably a frag. Being this close to Valar. So, I mean, from this flank, Blue 4 basically eliminated. Miles from OGC, the last one alive of his team, and Wiki is hot on his tail. And on the other flank, the command element, T-Space and Reynaud, still there, but not in really a position to do something that offensive. We can see now the Blue 4 team deciding to, I guess, renounce its suppressing fire duties and are going to be advancing across this open field towards that tree line.
Yeah, Blue 4's got to come up with something here if they hope to win this. It's looking pretty bad for them at this point. Yeah,
definitely pretty bleak in terms of the Blue 4 right now, and at this point, in a position where the Red 4 has the numerical superiority in a defending role, that is a very, very scary position for any kind of attacking team, and that's exactly the situation we see now, as perhaps the Blue 4 in this kind of small pined forest are just going to be waiting for that other element, that Delta 1 and Delta 4 elements, to continue their advance across the field, and then perhaps push up as one cohesive element. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a round timer of 45 minutes for this matchup, and we've gone through a whole lot of time, meaning there's only around 15 to 16 minutes remaining, and when that timer kicks out, usually Red 4 will be proclaimed the victor.
Well, I can change in 15 minutes. These Blue 4, they've still got numbers to make something happen.
Definitely, and they also got a decent position, right? I mean, the Delta elements that are advancing from that open field will be able to support the command elements already on the hillside, so at least they're able to do that. Hopefully they don't friendly fire each other, as Captain or Corporal Sailor is going to be advancing on that command element from their 6. So, I mean, they do have the consolidation, I guess, necessary to make something happen, but do they have the general overall positioning and numbers to really exploit that, is my concern.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the possibility of friendly fire, considering that had there not been a friendly fire incident in the beginning of this round on Blue 4's side, they may have gotten much closer and made this much more threatening for Op 4.
Yeah, I honestly feel like that friendly fire was probably one of the defining moments of this match, right? I mean, at the time, at the beginning, we saw for the longest period, Red 4 was kind of stationed around the cache area on the exact opposite side of the hill from that Blue 4 approach. When that friendly fire happened, they all shifted, and that's basically what happened with a big flank coming down on this Alpha element. So I think you're right that friendly fire at the beginning of the game really just influenced the whole rest of the matchup in the way the Red 4 was able to respond to the movements of that Blue 4 team.
Yeah, definitely. Combination of friendly fire and having a spotter so close and able to stop that whole element on the north side. That was
Wiki and
huge.
Miles, very close together. It's going to be a battle behind the trees right now as Wiki is able to get the upper hand and takes Miles out, meaning that basically the last effort for the Blue Fours up near this pine forest, and they actually did have a unit right now, I guess, push forward fairly close to that FOB. He's probably gotten the closest so far, perhaps other than Sebastian, which died on this flank. But yeah, right now pushing forward. Maybe Doberman sees him from that second story.
Firing off some distraction rounds, trying to gain the attention of the OpFor forces.
No, Doberman was actually taken out on that first story, I guess second story of this tower, meaning I guess their overall sightlines severely diminished. But I mean, Red 4 knows that they're there. They're taking GLs and frags outside this fence, and how will they break into this complex is the question they have to face still. Close contact on the other flank here. I think that was Corporal Sailor going down a backwoods from Bravo Company in that close quarters engagement with the rest of the Delta elements. 2 men remaining for that squad facing 2 Bravo Company members, and basically in a stalemate on that point. 1 Blue 4 being taken out by Max, and what is probably an epic shot. I mean, taking a look at the range there, like 200 meters or maybe 100 meters through thick foliage. Basically, the last effort is right here for the Blue 4 team, and Sklor will be coming into close contact with them fairly shortly. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if these last 2 of the command element of Blue 4 slow down and watch their corners carefully, they might spot some of these OpFor before they get the jump on them again, because it seems to be the story behind this whole mission is Blue 4 is moving very quickly and not checking everything properly, and then getting pretty wrecked.
Well, I mean, to be honest, looking at this main gate, I don't think it's covered. I think Blue 4 can waltz right in right now and not take fire. Elite Valar unable to cover that main gate. They have a concrete wall behind them, blocking their sight line. Sklor will be crossing the MSR to their side of the tree line, a little bit farther behind them, but we'll see
Completely
if Blue 4
unaware.
can make their approach here. Valar's perhaps knows something is up. They do take fire, though. I think that's Rob in a very nice pillared position on the other side of this base complex. So, I mean, we know that that's one side covered, but if perhaps T-Space decides to take the inside lane and pushes forward behind this tower, I think that's perhaps his best route of approach at this time. I don't think it was the right move of that other Blue 4 member to kind of cross and try to, breach on that other side. And we will see T-Space making that successful breach. The other
see
Delta
how long
elements,
you last, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically 2 Blue 4 remains now, and T-Space is the only one in a position to make anything happen at this point. Rob is there, Johnny on the spot with, I think, a machine gun. Nope, just an AK, but, I mean, definitely a target that T-Space can perhaps take out, as Rob is pretty square in the open at this point. Other units inside the FOB, basically nobody else. Valar Elite are in the general vicinity, but they're actually in the layer of defenses between the FOB and the tree line outside it. Valar only now deciding to peek out just a little bit too late after T-Space already advanced and breached into this compound. So this guy is basically the last effort for Blue 4, and he's got around 10 minutes to make something happen, a whole lot of time. And T-Space right now, perhaps we can hop into a first-person view. Oh, no, that's not first person. That's not first person. Come on, spectator. Oh, we had it. There we go. Hop on board with T-Space right now and his M1 or M4A1. And I think he could have caught a glimpse of Rob. Oh, he doesn't. Rob catches a glimpse of him. And that will be the end of that T-Space breach. And I think pretty much the end of the Blue 4 effort in this game.
Yeah, Evil Jack doesn't seem to be moving. He's playing pretty defensive despite being on the offensive side.
Well, I mean, I guess he knows that the kind of engagement he's going to be facing is a very scary one, and he wants to maintain his life. He probably doesn't have comms with anybody else, obviously, right? He's the last one alive, so it's basically up to his own initiative to make something happen at this point from this solid Blue 4 or Red 4 defense. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, he's gonna have the full force of Bravo Company come down on him if if he even so much as sneezes at them.
I mean, he won't face any close contact for a little while. He is maybe 200 meters away from that FOB, from the nearest Red 4 units, but perhaps we'll see Red 4 starting to do a little bit of search and destroy, advancing outside of their FOB and seeking out the last Blue 4 unit. As we close out this match, ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy watching these kinds of videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more great ARMA 3 Shoutcast content to come, as well as like up the video. It really does gain that little bit of extra exposure for my content, as well as if you like Obsidian, and check out his ARMA 3 related content on his YouTube channel, which can be found in the description of this video. Yeah, it's basically a game of search and destroy at this point, Obsidian. It's a question of now of whether to call the match, right? I mean, we've seen basically everything play out that could in this matchup. Blue 4, not much of a chance to live, and it's basically just dead air, or dead time from now on out. There's a little bit of fire going on. I can't exactly tell if that was backwoods spotting Evil Jack, but yeah, perhaps we'll wait it out, Obsidian. We'll check out this final engagement. They are starting to get near each other, Obsidian. Evil Jack just making a small bound, pushing forward, and perhaps we're looking at the kind of last movements of the Blue 4 team in this game.
He's in complete defilade from the entire, opposing force here from him, and hiding in a tree. I don't think they're going to find him for long. And so,
I mean, it ultimately depends on his route of approach. If he decides to, get up and start making some sweet bounds through these tree lines, perhaps then we'll get that engagement we so crave to end off this match. But nah, it seems like he's going to be taking the long way around, Obsidian, and perhaps that's just good enough cause for me to end this game. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We hope you stay tuned for more great showcasted content to come. I'm MicOne, and you're awesome. Signal the final advance of this Blue 4 element on top of this FOB. We'll see if they're able to make that push fairly shortly, but still, man, accurate fire coming down on top of that FOB. They got their approaches covered at this point. Let's take a look at that two-man PKM squad, and I think they've just been eliminated, Obsidian, so great job by Teammates Moore and Yankee Doodle on this flank, taking out that PKM squad. They're pretty much destroyed on this flank, so Blue 4 able to concentrate all their